The best gift would be if you just died. She didn't whisper it. She flung it like a plate across my little yellow kitchen, and it shattered in my ear. I was tying a blue ribbon around an envelope. 2 cruise vouchers, a note for the lawyer, and a list of birthday guests written in my careful hand. When her voice bled out of the phone, on speaker, the stove clicked under the kettle. Click, 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 and the smell of cinnamon toast made my stomach turn. Friday, Mom. We need everything signed by Friday. Please don't make this harder. She added, sweeter, as if sugar could hide the poison. I stood in the doorway and watched my own life shrink. The envelope looked like something a child would bring to show and tell. I had planned surprises. Balloons, lemon cake, a silly hat Evan promised to wear just to make me laugh. I had planned to add Marissa back as beneficiary because that's what mothers do. Forgive, forgive, forgive. I thought a cruise might fix the hurt. I thought a party might sew us up. Derek, I can't keep stalling her. My daughter said to someone I could not see, if she signs Friday at 2, we're fine. If she doesn't, then we have to do the other thing. The kettle began to scream. I turned it off and forgot to pour. My hands, old but steady, folded the ribbon tails under the knot. I placed the envelope on the counter as if it were fragile, as if it could bruise. I felt something tear in me, a quiet rip you don't hear until you notice your breath is colder. Am I paranoid? I heard my own voice, a whisper meant for no one. Am I crazy? Mom, are you even listening? She said, suddenly bright, the way she gets when strangers are watching. It's for your own good. I picked up the phone and ended the call. Then one by one I canceled everything. The notary at 2 p.m. Friday, the party, the cruise, the knee pre-op, the $25,000 wire deposit I had agreed to without understanding why a deposit needed secrecy. The best gift would be if you just died. Betrayed, betrayed, betrayed. I laid my palm on the blue ribbon and felt the pulse in my wrist. I am 72. I have buried a husband, raised 2 children, paid off this house in winters that bit the bone. Old does not mean blind. Old means I've seen this trick before. If I'm paranoid, I'll apologize. If I'm right, I will survive. And Friday will not belong to them. I didn't start out suspicious. I started out busy. Busy is a kind of faith when you're young. If you keep moving, the wolves can't catch you. In 1991, I was 38. Hair the color of wheat chaff, fingers raw from bleach water and dish soap. Mornings, I worked the school cafeteria for $7.15 an hour, stirring vats of tomato soup and counting out milk cartons for first graders who called me Miss Eve and wiped their noses on their sleeves. Nights, I sat the motel desk off Route 17 for $9.40 in a lobby that smelled like old rugs and pine cleaner, checking in men whose eyes never met mine. Rent was $700 that year for a 2-bedroom in a building that leaned like a tired man. I kept 3 envelopes in the freezer behind the peas. Rent, car, emergencies. If you ask me how I made it work, I'll tell you the truth. I bent the month until the ends touched. Mom, can I have $5 for field day? My daughter would ask, breathless. Backpack unzipped. I've got 3, I'd say. And she'd roll her eyes. Make it stretch. Marissa learned to ask her father when she wanted yes. Leonard was a kind man with a soft-serve heart, always saying we could figure it out. Which meant I would. I didn't resent him for it. I resented the math. I resented the price of toilet paper, the way it crept up like ivy. But we laughed. We burned grilled cheese. We danced in the kitchen to the radio when the Phillies won. We made do. Making do was our love language. The house came in 1993, a little Cape Cod on Maple Street, with a crooked porch and a maple tree that rained helicopters in May. The mortgage felt like an accusation and a promise. $478.22 due the first of every month. The banker shook Leonard's hand and glanced at me the way men used to glance at women who do the math. I ran my finger under every line of those papers like reading for salvation. When we moved in, we slept on the floor the first night, and the maple scraped its fingers on the roof like a lullaby. We can paint the kitchen yellow, I told Leonard, standing with my hands on my hips, the way I do when I'm trying not to cry. Then we'll burn the pancakes brighter, he said. And we did. I still have the skillet burns on the counter. Years tumble fast when you're busy. 1997 was the broken wrist, mine, slipping on ice outside the motel. 1999 was the radiator that coughed itself to death in February. 2001 was the year I first tucked $20 a week into a coffee can labeled college. Because numbers, like seeds, need to be planted long before you're hungry. By the time 2003 came with Marissa's first foray into community college, the can clanked like a happy song. And yet it wasn't enough. Tuition and fees were $25,000 for the program she swore would change her life. I sold my wedding china for $1,200 to a woman who said one of the teacups had a hairline crack I'd never seen. I signed a cashier's check with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. You didn't have to do that, Marissa said, hugging me, her perfume like pears. You're my girl, I said. I get to. It should have felt like triumph. It felt like thin ice. When she dropped out a semester later, they hate me there. The classes are stupid. I swallowed my lecture whole like a bitter pill and asked what she needed next. That became a pattern. I learned to smooth my face. I learned to turn the other cheek so often it felt like spinning. Mom, can you just... Yes. People like to talk about sacrifice and grand gestures, but it's mostly small. Repeated decisions to be uncomfortable so someone you love can breathe easier. Leonard knew that. When he got sick in 2015, he apologized for leaving me with the house, as if dying were a bill he could pay. Cancer doesn't care about your envelopes in the freezer. He went quiet in October, hands going smaller and smaller in mine, until there was only light. The insurance people spoke to me in slow, careful voices, as if grief ate intelligence. It doesn't. It eats appetite. It eats the color yellow for a while. Then you paint anyway. What will you do with the policy, Mrs. Hart? They asked. I kept the premium paid, kept the papers tidy, kept my world between four walls and a maple tree. I started making chamomile tea at night because sleep was a door I couldn't find in the dark. My children visited. Visits turned to check-ins. Check-ins to checklists. Property taxes at $3,400 a year. The porch needed a repair. I learned to read invoices like mysteries. What's real, what's fiction? What's a typo and what's a lie? People ask, when did the coldness begin? Not all at once. It was a draft under a door you didn't know was there. A whisper that the house wasn't really yours anymore. Not in their heads. They loved me. Of course they loved me. Love and entitlement are cousins who borrow each other's sweaters. Mom, you're so good with money, Marissa said one Sunday after church, spooning potato salad onto her plate. Just add the whirlpool to your list. My dryer's dying. How much is dying? I asked. 900. She smiled over her shoulder, the way she does when she's already decided. I wrote $900 on an index card and slid it under the magnet shaped like an apple. I like to see numbers where I can keep an eye on them. We ate lemon bars under the gaze of a Jesus who looked too fair-skinned for our part of Pennsylvania. At St. Bridget's, they say we carry one another. Some of us carry more. You don't have to, Leonard used to tell me when he was alive. I get to, I said. It felt holy. It felt like purpose. 2010 had given me Evan, my grandson, gentle as rain, and twice as needed. Just for a while, Marissa said, eyes darting, a new man in the car. I need time to figure things out. I didn't ask what the things were. You can tell when an answer will be expensive. Evan arrived with a backpack and a dinosaur he called Milo, and the kind of hunger that isn't for food. We set up the second bedroom with the quilt my mother pieced, and I wrote Evan on the mailbox in pencil just to see how it would look. You're safe here, I told him the first night. He nodded without looking up. It changed my world to have a small boy clattering around the kitchen again, clapping when the pancake landed right side up, drawing maps to anywhere with crayons. He learned the creak of the fourth stair, the way the maple branches scribbled across his window at night, the swing on the porch that answered to his weight. And I remembered how to laugh at nothing. When Marissa showed up, she brought sunglasses even on cloudy days and didn't stay. "You've got him, right?" "I do," I said. I always did. Busy carried me into widowhood as if I were a bundle of sticks. We do what we know. I cook too much. I joined the quilting circle on Tuesdays and the senior aerobics on Thursdays and learned the names of everyone's granddogs. I replaced one habit, Leonard's snore, with another, the kettle scream. The neighbors brought casseroles and took back their dishes on time. I put a chair for Mrs. Patel on the porch and learned she was a court stenographer, retired with hands that still moved fast. She could type your whole life if you weren't careful. We took to sitting in the evenings, counting fireflies, 1 for luck, 2 for money, 3 for truth. "Truth is always the hardest to swallow," she said once, like she was talking about medicine. "Depends who has to hear it," I said, and we laughed, old women with tea, thinking we knew what was coming. The internet made things easier and harder. Marissa said she would help with online banking because, "Mom, you never remember your passwords." I write my passwords on index cards, too. It's not fancy, but it's faithful. She rolled her eyes like she was 16 again and moved the mouse with a confidence that made me feel 80. I let her set up autopay on the gas and electric. You cannot hold on to everything forever. Your hands get tired, but hands can also be pried open. "Mom, you forgot the gas bill last month," she said in March false sweet. "I didn't," I said. I had the heavy suspicion of being wrong. That's an old woman's shadow. Doubt that sits in the corner and tuts. She hugged me in the pharmacy line. Public sweetness, private sharpness. "Don't worry, I'll handle her meds," she told the technician, and I felt my name slip out of my own hands like a bar of soap. The young tech smiled at me like a volunteer at a senior center. I signed where they told me to, and that night, my pillbox looked different. My numbers weren't in my handwriting, and it's a funny thing, to recognize your life by your pen loops. Am I paranoid? Am I crazy? I asked the kettle. "Tea's boiling," the kettle said, which is to say it screamed. We must take our answers where we can find them. I don't want to paint my daughter as a villain wearing a cape. She is not a cartoon. She is complicated like me. She is a woman who learned the wrong lessons about money and love. She is a woman whose mouth has shaped itself around excuses so long the truth feels like a stone. Debt is a wolf you feed with other people's dinners. I knew she and Derek had money troubles. Whispers about markers at the off-track betting place out by the river. A payday loan that ballooned like a dark cloud. I offered help where I could. A $300 grocery run here, 2 car payments there. Just until bonus season. I said yes even when my gut said no. Betrayed, betrayed, betrayed. I didn't know enough yet to say it out loud, but the drum had started. The house taxes came due again. $3,400. A gulp of air I couldn't afford to lose. I made pies for the church bazaar, 5 of them, and came home with envelopes of small bills that smelled like other people's kitchens. Marissa stopped by to check on me and left with the good casserole dish and a promise to bring it back. Weeks passed. Dishes have a way of telling you who respects you. "Mom, you don't need that big a place," she said, stirring sugar into a coffee she didn't drink. "This is my place," I said, and we left the rest unsaid. When Evan hit middle school, he found his feet. He also found my old camcorder in the closet and filmed the maple tree in time-lapse, leaves turning and falling like confetti. He taught me how to hold my face still for the camera, so I didn't look like a startled owl. We made YouTube videos no one watched, mostly for ourselves. How to mend a quilt corner. What my Nana keeps in the freezer. He liked the cookie jar, a ceramic hen with a secret cavity. As a prop, hiding notes inside for me to find in the mornings. Check beneath the feathers. he'd tell me with a grin. "You're writing our history," I told him. "I'm stealing time," he said, and I hugged him for knowing the difference at 15. People think danger has a soundtrack. It doesn't. It sounds like the clink of teaspoons and the plastic rip of a new pill bottle. It sounds like Mom's sign here and it's for your own good, and this is just a formality. It sounds like the church secretary asking if I'd thought about assisted living because there's a lovely new place with a waiting list. It sounds like kindness. It wears kindness like a good coat. "You should at least tour," Marissa said, tossing catalogs onto my table, rooms staged with generic books and bowls of green apples. "They need a $25,000 deposit to hold a spot for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? I asked. "Just to lock in the price," she said too quickly, like a child telling you she didn't break the lamp. I ran my fingers over the glossy photo of a woman my age, smiling at a window that didn't look out at a maple tree. I felt the house shift, as if it had heard its name on someone else's lips. I made chamomile. I slept badly. I got up at 5:30 a.m. and sat on the porch swing while the sky practiced being blue. The maple breathed for both of us. "Maybe they're right," I told the yard. "Maybe I don't need all this space." The yard said nothing. The birds said what birds always say. "Now, now, now." At St. Bridget's potluck, Marissa brought store-bought brownies on a glass platter that used to be mine. "Mom forgets things lately," she told the ladies fondly, loudly, as she fixed a stray hair behind my ear like a mother. "I'm just trying to help." "I'm right here," I whispered, but the room buzzed with casseroles and gossip, and my voice felt like it had been misfiled. People smiled at me with the softness people reserve for children and animals. It would have been easier to be truly confused. Then at least my heart would match their faces. Numbers kept me sane. Receipts, dates, amounts. I wrote March 12th. Gas bill estimated. Corrected. Overpayment not returned on an index card and slid it under the magnet. I wrote April 3rd. ATM withdrawals, $400, $600 at 2:41 p.m., 3:06 p.m., 3:17 p.m. At quilting and tucked it behind the rent envelope in the freezer because old habits hold. I wrote Wednesday, life insurance premium, and circled it twice. Dignity, dignity, dignity. Sometimes you have to say it 3 times like a spell. "Mom, you make everything so dramatic," Marissa said when she found my little note stack. "No one's trying to hurt you." "Then why does it feel like falling?" I asked. She kissed the air near my cheek. "You're tired. You need rest. I'll make you tea tonight." I watched her move around my kitchen like she owned it, opening drawers, blaming the drawers for being in the wrong places. "I can make my own tea," I said. "Let me do something," she said. And I let her. I let her because motherhood is a long story about letting go, and because I wanted to believe we were still a family that could share a cup and a quiet. Back then, in the soft light of before, I did not know the word guardianship like a threat. I did not know forged like a bruise. I knew forgive. I knew endure. I knew the smell of cinnamon toast on a Saturday, the way Evan's laughter filled the stairwell like warm air, the way Mrs. Patel's chuckle skipped like a pebble across a pond when the cardinals fought their reflections in the window. "You're stronger than you look," Mrs. Patel told me one evening, as the porch swing ticked back and forth. "I look strong," I said, and she nodded. When people ask where betrayal starts, I tell them it starts long before the shout. It starts in the little permissions we give, in the trust we hand out like road maps and forget to collect. It starts in help that becomes control, in gifts that come with strings, in the tired yes we say at the end of a day because no is another chore. It starts in love that gets thin and patched and threadbare, but still we wrap ourselves in it because naked is colder. I didn't start out suspicious. I started out busy keeping the lights on, busy keeping the maple trimmed, busy keeping everyone else above water while I learned to tread. And if now and then I whispered into the kettle. Am I paranoid? Am I crazy? The kettle answered the way it always did, with a scream. Some alarms are loud, some alarms are slow. The slow ones are the ones that save you. I told myself I was just tired. People my age are always told to be tired. Politely, insistently, the way you tell a child it's bedtime. Tired explains anything people don't want to look at too closely. But tired doesn't move the cookie jar half an inch to the left 3 mornings in a row. Tired doesn't add dots to a pillbox that isn't in your handwriting. Tired doesn't call from a number you don't recognize and say, "We're delighted to confirm your 2-week reservation. Your $25,000 deposit secures the suite by Friday." I didn't reserve anything, I told the voice. "Oh, sorry, Miss Hart," the woman chirped, papers shuffling. "It says your daughter handled the forms. We just need the wire. 2 weeks holds the room and the rate." "What rate?" "Our promotional rate if you miss the window. You'll be moved to the waiting list." I set the phone down carefully, as if a hard thump might spill the lie onto my table, and watched the kettle nod at me like an old friend about to hiss. I didn't turn it on. I wanted my head clear. "Mom, why do you look so suspicious?" Marissa asked later, breezing in with her sunglasses on even though the sky was a flat, honest gray. "You know stress is bad for your heart." "Who reserved me a room? We just toured, remember?" Her smile was buttered. "They pencil everyone in. It's standard." "They penciled in $25,000. "Mom!" She laughed, tapping a nail against the counter as if she were playing me like a glass harp. "It's just to hold the space. You can always get it back." "Then you can get it back," I said, because I didn't put it down. Her mouth flattened. "You're making everything complicated." "It is complicated," I said. "It's my life." That night I checked the pillbox. Monday's compartment, what should have been 1 amlodipine and 1 calcium, had a fine dust clinging to the plastic. The letters on the lid looked wrong, as if someone had tried to trace my looped M and missed. I took nothing and laid awake, listening to the house think. The maple rubbed its fingers against the roof. At 11:06 p.m., the front door whispered shut. Evan was asleep. I could hear the steady thrum of his breath through the thin wall like a lake sound. The door again, softer this time. I waited for footsteps that didn't come. The cookie jar sat like a sentry hen on the counter, glazed eyes reflecting the dim light. Am I paranoid? Am I crazy? I asked the dark. The dark withheld judgment. In the morning, the cookie jar had shifted a fraction left. I took out a ruler, the one Leonard used to keep in the junk drawer for hanging pictures, and measured from the jar's base to the counter seam. I wrote it down on an index card. Cookie jar 3.5, from seam. Yesterday 3. I am a woman who believes what she can measure. "Mom, why are you measuring the dishes?" Marissa asked that afternoon, appearing like a magic trick without knocking. She set down a supermarket cake. White frosting, pale roses that looked tired of pretending to be alive. "Because I lose my temper slower when I have facts," I said. "You're doing it again." She rolled her eyes, the old 16-year-old in the 43-year-old's face. The dramatics. "Everything is an interrogation. I'm trying to help you." "You're moving my things." "I cleaned." "You cleaned the pillbox?" She blinked. "You're confused again." "It happens." Then to the air, as if the air were full of witnesses. "She's been so forgetful lately." At St. Bridget's thrift sale, I overheard her in the hallway near the ladies' room, her voice pitched in that syrupy range meant to float, not carry. "Mom can't manage the house anymore. I'm doing my best. Friday at 2 we're signing with the notary. Then I'll arrange the rest." "The house?" whispered the choir director. "It's for the best," Marissa said. "She'll be so much safer." I stood with a bundle of pillowcases in my hand and felt my blood go cold in a clean, efficient way. Not rage, not even sadness. Something that felt like waking up underwater and seeing the shape of the boat above you. "Closer than you thought." "Moving away. Who are you talking to about my house?" I asked her later, folding the pillowcases. Muscle memory from 1,000 Saturdays. "A realtor," she said. Breezy. "Just exploratory. Don't be so negative. You never plan, Mom. You react." "I've planned my entire life," I said calmly. "It's why you had a bed and milk and pencils." She didn't meet my eyes. "You're being ungrateful. We're trying to relieve your burden." "My burden is people treating me like a burden," I said. My voice surprised me. Level, almost gentle. I sounded like the cafeteria version of myself, explaining to a child that pizza day was Friday, not whenever he wanted it. The bank called on April 3rd. "Miss Hart, we noticed 3 ATM withdrawals at 2:41 p.m., 3:06 p.m., and 3:17 p.m., totaling about 100. I was at quilting, dear," I said, pressing the phone between my shoulder and cheek, while my hands continued pinning seams. "I don't have an ATM card." "Your debit card was used," she said, voice tightening into professional. "Chip and pin. What machine?" She read the location. I wrote it down. I thanked her like she'd told me the weather. "Mom, I told you I'd grab cash for the plumber," Marissa said when I asked her that evening, stirring tea with the impatience of someone stirring a story. "You didn't," I said. I texted. "You didn't." She sighed, big and performative. "You forget things, and then you fight me on the help. It's exhausting." "I'm exhausted," I said. And this time I meant the bone-deep kind. The kind that sits in your jaw and your wrists and the soft part of your throat. Not from age. From being managed, it became a chorus. "You're confused. You're paranoid. You're tired." At the pharmacy, she told the tech with that same public sweetness. "My mom gets mixed up about her prescriptions. Can you give me the printout and I'll walk her through it?" At the doctor's office, she answered the questions before I could. "Yes, she's been dizzy. Yes, she's had trouble remembering appointments. No, she doesn't always eat well." In the church parking lot to Mrs. Green, loud enough for everyone. "It's just so hard watching her decline." "Decline?" I said when we were alone in the car. My hands on 10 and 2, like the state trooper taught me 40 years ago. "It happens to everyone," she replied, checking her lipstick in the mirror. "Accept it with grace." "Grace is not the same as surrender," I said. She laughed. "Sometimes it is." A post-it appeared on the fridge the next morning. Friday, 2 p.m. Notary. Bring ID. The handwriting was stubbornly mine, except the 2 had a sharp little hat I never put on my 2s. I held it next to my grocery list and stared until the difference looked like a confession. "I did you a favor?" Marissa said when I held up the note. "You keep missing appointments." "Notary for what?" "Power of attorney. Simple. Derek knows a guy who can explain it fast. Just sign and we'll take care of the bills so you can relax." "I can relax when I can read what I'm signing," I said. "Bring me the papers now," she made a face. "It's boring legal boilerplate. You'll just worry and work yourself up." "Let me worry," I said. "I'm good at it. Practice makes perfect." That night she insisted on making chamomile. "You didn't sleep last night," she cooed. "I did." I lied. "1 cup won't kill you." "That's a strange way to sell tea," I said lightly. Her eyes flicked up, surprised, then warm again. "You're funny. I didn't drink it. I poured it into Leonard's old fern, which had outlived him, and most of my patience. Mom, you're being dramatic," she called from the living room, as if she had eyes in the wall. "I'm being alive," I whispered. The next day, I went to the bank in person. Lourdes, the teller I've known since she was 19, with a shy smile and a mechanical pencil behind her ear, leaned in. "Miss Hart, off the record?" she murmured. "The ATM camera shows a woman with sunglasses and a scarf. She knew the PIN. We can file a dispute, but it's messy if it's family." Everything is messy if it's family, I said, and thanked her with the kind of smile that says, I heard what you were brave enough to say. At the pharmacy, I asked for a printed medication history. The young man with a scatter of acne across his jaw hesitated, looked at the screen, then printed. The dates didn't make sense. Zolpidem refilled too soon. Diphenhydramine, which I buy over the counter maybe once a season. Logged like a habit. Someone had been helpful enough to initial the pickups. MH in a loop I recognized. Is that me? I asked, tapping the initials. It must be, he said, unconvincing. I sign my name like this, I said, showing him an index card from my purse with my loops and angles. That doesn't look like my hand. Sometimes the system just autofills. He shrugged. Systems love to be blamed. Systems don't blush. I stopped by Mrs. Patel's on my way home. She had chai on the stove and a lemon cookie that tasted like a polite miracle. Her small, quick hands folded into a steeple. Write everything, she instructed. Times, dates, exact words. Not feelings, not guesses. Words. If we're wrong, we'll know. If we're right, we'll have a wall of nails to hang the truth on. Am I paranoid? I asked, feeling my voice wobble for the first time in days. Her eyes were a book I could read without my glasses. You're careful. Careful women are always called paranoid until a man calls them prudent in court. I went home and wrote, April 5, pharmacy printout shows refills out of sync. April 6th, notary posted appears. Fias hat. April 6th, Marissa insists on tea. Does not drink hers. April 7, ATM camera confirms sunglasses jar scarf woman. I wrote everything like a stenographer in my own trial. Mom, why all the notes? Marissa asked, flipping through my stack like a deck of cards. This is obsessive. It's honestly worrying. It keeps me from worrying, I said. You don't trust me. She snapped. And there it was. Bright as a flare. The real offense. Not the money. Not the house. The mirror. I was holding up a mirror and she didn't like what she looked like. I trust you to do what you think you need, I answered, and I trust myself to keep a record. Derek started showing up more, hands in pockets, eyes sliding off surfaces like fried eggs. Hey, Ma, he said, calling me a name he'd never used in 20 years. Men switch to Ma when they want you to feel old and maternal and easily handled. Let's make this easy. My guy can come Friday. Bang out the POA and the quitclaim in one sitting. You'll be set. Set where? I asked. He laughed. Geez, with jokes like that, you should be on TikTok. TikTok doesn't allow attempted robbery, I said pleasantly. No one's robbing you, he said too quickly. Then why are you sweating? He wiped his forehead and scowled. This is why we don't tell you things. You get hysterical. I was a cafeteria manager for 15 years, I said. I was the only person in a room of 600 children who wasn't hysterical. He muttered something I didn't need to hear. Later, I heard him in the hallway on his phone. We can't stall again. He needs the papers for Monday. He, not the notary, not the lawyer. He, loans have he's. Gambling markers have he's. Wolves have he's. I wrote, he needs papers Monday, and underlined it twice. Marissa shifted tactics. Sugar instead of vinegar. She arrived with tulips. She filled the bird feeder. She left heart emojis under my Facebook photos with captions like, my world and blessed to care for her. She told the neighbor across the street that she was organizing my life because I couldn't keep up anymore. She told the neighbor next door, who knew me, that I was stubborn and independent and making everything hard. She told 2 stories, waiting to see which one stuck. That's the thing about gaslighting. There's always a control group. You're making me the villain, she said one afternoon, voice trembling, eyes glistening. No, I said. You're auditioning for the role. How dare you? With practice, I said. I've had almost half a century with you. She put a hand over her heart like a martyr in a painted window. I would never hurt you." "Then stop." She looked at me the way people look at locked safes. "You don't even know what you're doing to me," she whispered. "I know what you're doing to me," I said. That evening, my insurance company left a voicemail. "Mrs. Hart, we've mailed the beneficiary change packet you requested. If you need assistance completing it, our representative can help." I called back. "I didn't request any packet." "It was requested online," the rep said, typing sounds poking through the phone. "From a residential IP, Dixon and Hoyle Plumbing, actually. Derek's employer, or his cover for a side job, or the only place he could sit still long enough to steal my afterlife." I hung up and felt the house gather itself around me, not as a fortress, but as a witness. The maple tapped the roof. The porch swing creaked. The cookie jar watched. The kettle asked for permission to scream. I let it. "Nana?" Evan's voice drifted down the stairs, hair sticking up like the angel on a cake. "You okay?" "I'm listening," I said. "To what?" "To how things sound when they're wrong." He patted in barefoot, the way boys do who grew up in a house where the floors are safe. He looked at the post-it on the fridge. "You didn't write that," he said immediately. "How do you know?" He grinned, all teeth, all love. "Your twos don't have hats." I made us cinnamon toast, the way I used to when he was 8, and life was a simpler machine with fewer moving parts. He held his plate with both hands, careful, the way people hold good things. "They want the house," he said, plain as a weather report. "They want everything that comes with it," I said. "Control. Proof I'm less than I've always been." "You're more," he said, matter of fact. "You're Nana." I laughed, then I cried, then I laughed again. "I need to see what happens when I'm not looking," I said. "I need to know what's true." "We can set a camera," he offered, instantly in his element. "There are little button ones online, or we can hide my old GoPro." "I don't want to break the law," I said, the cafeteria manager and motel clerk and church lady in me speaking in one voice. "I want to keep it." "It's legal if it's your house, and you're not putting it in bathrooms," he said, rolling his eyes with love. "I watch channels about this stuff. Chill." "I'm chilled," I said, and realized I was. I wasn't tired. I wasn't hysterical. I was a woman with a list and time before Friday. Marissa kept up the campaign. "Mom, wear something nice Friday. First impressions matter," she chirped, sliding a garment bag onto my chair that turned out to hold a dress that wasn't mine and fit me like a lie. "We'll do signatures, swing by the assisted living to say hello. Then deposit the $25,000 so we can lock your future." "My future isn't a storage unit you can lock," I said. "Stop with the one-liners," she snapped. "You're not funny." "I raised you on jokes because truth hurt," I answered. I started finding papers in the wrong folders. The deed, which I keep in a plastic sleeve, was in the drawer with the potholders, as if heat and title belonged together. The life insurance premium notice, Wednesday due, had been slid under a magazine about tulip bulbs, like a bad card in a deck. A cognitive assessment form, already filled in, appeared on the table, my name printed at the top, and questions answered in tidy block letters that weren't mine. "Disoriented at times. Requires assistance. Unsafe to live alone." "What is this?" I asked, holding it up. "They need it for the placement," Marissa said, too smooth. "Dr. Bennett's office faxed it over." "I didn't take a test. You forget." "I forget when I'm bored," I said. "Not when someone is grading me." She turned away, shoulders tight. "Everything is a fight." "Everything is a fact," I said, my voice flat as the kitchen table. "And facts don't mind fights." The house itself began to feel divided. Rooms where I could trust my eyes, and rooms that moved when I blinked. I started placing bobby pins in the doorway crack to see if someone went in while I was in the yard. I started setting the kitchen chair at a certain angle to the table leg and checking its tilt when I returned from the bank, from church, from Mrs. Patel's porch. I caught myself walking softer, as if my own floors might tell on me. That's what manipulation does. It shrinks you until you apologize for taking up the space you already own. Mom, you can't live like this, Marissa scolded, catching me with a bobby pin between my fingers. You're making everyone miserable. Everyone is two people, I said. You and the man you owe. Her face went very still. Then she smiled, and the smile didn't reach her eyes. You're sick, she pronounced. We'll get you help. I'm getting help, I said, and wiped the counter with a slow, methodical motion Leonard used when he wanted to calm his temper. Wipe, rinse, ring. Wipe, rinse, ring. There's prayer in chores. The day before Friday, an envelope slid under my door. Urgent. Notary confirmation. No return address. A single sheet inside, with my name spelled correctly, and my middle initial wrong. A phone number with a local area code. I called. We'll see you at 2 p.m., a male voice said. Bring government-issued ID. Don't forget the deed. We'll need to notarize the quitclaim. Who ordered this? I asked. Your daughter. She said you're struggling, he replied, the pause doing the heavy lifting. I'm struggling to understand why strangers know my schedule, I said, and hung up. I took a breath big enough to fill a sail. Then I walked to the freezer, moved the rent envelope aside, and slid in a new one. Court. I didn't have a date yet, but I had a direction. That evening, Marissa brought over soup from a restaurant I couldn't afford when Leonard was alive. You see, she said, ladling it into my bowls, using my spoon like a prop in a commercial. We take care of you. You just need to stop fighting. I'll stop fighting when people stop hitting, I said. No one is hitting you. Then why do I keep seeing stars? You're being ridiculous. Maybe, I allowed. Maybe I'm ridiculous enough to live. I didn't eat the soup. It smelled fine. It looked fine. It tasted like a favor. I made toast. Friday at 2, she reminded me, kissing the air near my cheek, her lips cold. Wear something nice. I'll wear armor, I said. Don't be dramatic. I'd hate to disappoint, I said and closed my door. I turned the lock with ceremony. I went to the table, opened a fresh index card, and wrote at the top in my neatest hand, if I am paranoid, I will apologize. If I am right, I will survive. Under it, I wrote Friday to notary, POA quitclaim. Then I wrote Saturday 9-4, bank, ask lords about dispute. Then Monday, doctor, request office fax logs. Then Wednesday, insurance premium, pay in person. I put the card under the magnet shaped like an apple. I put another copy in the freezer behind car. Nana, Evan called from the stairs. You okay? I'm awake, I said, which is better than okay. Want me to bring the camera tomorrow? I looked at the cookie jar. The hen looked back. Tomorrow, I said softly. Bring 2. And when the kettle finally screamed, I let it sing all the way to silence. Mrs. Patel didn't bring me courage. She brought me a pen. Write words, not feelings, she said, sliding a small spiral notebook across her porch table. Times, dates, exact quotes, we will let the feelings catch up later. Later, I echoed. After Friday. After Friday, she agreed. That afternoon, Evan came home with a brown paper bag he wouldn't let me touch. It's legal, Nana, he said before I could purse my lips. Your house, your cameras, no bathrooms, no bedrooms, kitchen and hall. And one more thing. What thing? He held up a shiny black button. Looks like part of your sweater. It's a camera. We'll hide it where the light is good. Where the light is good, I repeated, as if we were planting tomatoes. We started in the kitchen. Evan unscrewed the top of the cookie jar, the ceramic hen with the judgmental eyes, and tucked the button cam under the lip, angled at the table and stove. Field of view covers your tea kettle, the pill box, and the chair she likes. He murmured all business, his voice low the way men talk to engines. Under the table, he taped a thin USB recorder to the underside, hidden by the table apron. Audio is trickier, he admitted. But you gave consent. Pennsylvania is complicated. I'm complicated, I said. We'll be careful. Redundancy. He grinned and pulled a second camera from the bag. We'll put this one inside the box of birthday napkins above the fridge. Back up angle. Back up everything, I said. Even prayers. He tested the feed on his laptop. On the screen, my kitchen looked like a set from A Quiet Play. Shiny counters, the Apple magnet on the fridge, the hen-keeping secrets. Timestamps are synced, he said. We're rolling. I put the kettle on, not for tea, but for company. I am 72, I told the room. I have paid my house note in winters that split my knuckles. I have earned the right to watch my own stove. Say it again on mic, Evan whispered, wicked delighted. For the record, I'm not crazy. I'm careful. He squeezed my hand. Good. The next morning I took my careful to the bank. Lord saw me in line and lifted her finger. Not wait, but come. She took me to her desk and closed the glass door with a hush. Miss Hart, she said, voice low. I pulled the ATM footage. You could lose your job, I whispered. I could lose my mother. She whispered back. She's your age, and she thinks the internet is a rumor. She turned the monitor so I could see. The camera froze on a woman with oversized sunglasses and a scarf tied under her chin like an old movie star. The scarf, blue with little anchors, was mine. The stance, the tilt of the head. Marissa. She knows the pin, Lord said. She should not. I said, we can file a dispute. She offered, but if it's family, they'll fight you with your own last name. File anyway, I said. I like paper. Paper has a memory. She printed the withdrawal times, 2:41 p.m., 3:06 p.m., 3:17 p.m., total $1,400. She slipped the paper into a white envelope and wrote, for your records in small, neat letters that people use when they're doing a brave thing and want to make it look boring. For my records, I echoed, and put the envelope in my purse between the rent index card and a peppermint. At the pharmacy, I asked for a medication history. The tech looked over my shoulder, the way young people do when they're afraid of conflict and hoping it walks past them, disguised as a sale on gummy vitamins. Printouts for the last 3 months, I said, crisp. Do you want the clinical summary or the transaction log? He asked, stalling. Both, he printed. Paper rattled. Paper always sounds nervous. He slid the stack across. I studied the dates. Zolpidem refilled 12 days early. Diphenhydramine purchases that did not look like my allergy seasons. Initials at pickup. MH. The H looped like a noose. Not my hand. Not my loop. Who can initial for me? I asked. Authorized caregiver, he said, cheeks pinking. Who authorized her? I asked. He swallowed. I don't know. Find out, I said, not unkind. And mark my profile. No one picks up for me. Yes, ma'am. At the edge of the counter, a display of chamomile tea bags smiled at me with a picture of a daisy. I felt my stomach tip like a boat. Nana? Evan texted from school. How's the paper chase? Paper is confessing, I texted back. Be home for tea. LOL no tea, he wrote. We do lemonade tonight. We stopped at Dr. Bennett's office next. The receptionist, Sharon with the cardigans and the "and then what" smile, tilted her head like a sparrow when I asked for the fax logs. The cognitive assessment? She repeated, tasting the words like they might be sour. We have it on file. I don't, I said, because I didn't take one. Sometimes the nurse administers a mini-cog during vitals. Clock drawing? I can draw a clock in my sleep, I said. And I'd draw the right time. She glanced over my shoulder, hoping for a rescue. I did not move. We'll need to request the log from our machine, she said finally. It shows send times and destination numbers. You'll need to sign a release. I signed. My hand was steady. Mrs. Patel had joined me, her purse full of pens like a quiver. She leaned forward and squinted at the assessment they reluctantly let me see. Answers in block letters. My name printed with my full middle name, which I never use on forms. Like someone had Googled me and tried to be thorough. At the bottom, a signature. My name, but the E began in the wrong place. Who signed this? I asked. No heat. It says you, Sharon said. Her voice fluttered. I don't make my E like that, I said. You've seen my signature for 30 years. It lives on half your file folders. Mrs. Patel slid a fingernail under the paper and lifted it. Ink sits on cheap paper like a boast, she murmured. This was traced. See the hesitation here? And here. Sharon's eyes flicked right, left. I'll ask the nurse. You'll ask your clerk, the one with the long acrylics and the cousin who sells houses, Mrs. Patel said. Sweet as sherbet, and Sharon's mouth opened and shut like a fish practicing a secret. I'll get the log, she managed and retreated. We waited. Waiting is an old woman's superpower. Chairs grew and shrank under better women than me. Evan's texts vibrated. New battery and cam, file named test, OK, to move, USB recorder working. My phone lit with unknown caller. Mrs. Hart, the voice said, crisp as paper. We're with Bright Willow Assisted Living. Just a reminder that your $25,000 deposit is due by Friday to hold your suite for 2 weeks. Who submitted my application? I asked. Your daughter, she chirped. She's doing such a good job advocating for you. Give me the fax number you received the doctor's assessment from, I said. Oh, we can't. You can, I said, pulling Mrs. Patel's card from my purse. Or you can discuss it with my neighbor who took down everything you just said in shorthand. Click, click, click. Paper sleeps with paper. She read me the number. I wrote it. I compared it to the number on Dr. Bennett's fax machine taped to the wall. Not a match. Sharon came back with a printout. Fax to 555-0072, 10:38 a.m. Tuesday. The from line read Dr. Bennett's office, but the machine ID read Greer Realty. Somebody had changed the header, or somebody had walked a paper across the hall to use a different machine. Thank you, I said. I'll see you Wednesday for my premium physical. Premium? Sharon repeated, confused. Insurance premium is due Wednesday, I said. I plan to be alive to pay it. Back home, I set the kettle, because I am nothing if not consistent. The kitchen was a stage again. I checked the cookie jar camera's feed. Black and white, grainy but clear. The chair, the pillbox, the kettle, the hen pretending not to stare. Timestamp running like a river. At 6:12 p.m., Marissa arrived with a tote bag of groceries she claimed to have bought for me. Price tags blinking organic guilt. Friday at 2, she sang, letting herself in. I got you a dress. Don't say no. You never bought me a dress when I was young, I said. Don't waste your money when I'm old. It looks nice, she said, and set the bag on the counter, the one camera didn't see. Evan, in the living room with his headphones on, texted me. Move her to chair, I smiled. Sit, I said, warm. I'll make tea. Let me, she said quickly. You always spill. I'll measure the water. You do the bags, I said, and shifted the kettle just so. The camera saw. The recorder heard the foil tear. Her hand, practiced, moved in and out of frame. A quick pinch over my cup, like a florist adding baby's breath. The tea bag followed, modest as a veil. She hummed off-key. She always hums when she lies. You're good to me, I said, and my voice did not break. I'm trying, she said, eyes soft. You make it hard. I took the cup, smiled, and set it near the fern. She sipped hers, then kissed my hair. Friday, she whispered. 2 o'clock. Friday, I echoed. 2:00. She left humming. The house exhaled. Evan padded in, bare feet, eyes a question mark. I pointed at the fern. He nodded. Got it on both angles, he said, fingers already on the laptop. On the screen, 11:06 p.m. would be our headline later. For now, 6:29 p.m. showed a hand, my daughter's, over my cup. The powder fell like snow. Back it up, I said. Make 3 copies. 4, he said. 1 for Mrs. Patel. 5, I countered. 1 goes in the freezer. He laughed, then didn't. Okay, he said. 5, I went to bed and did not sleep. When you do not drink the poison, you are left with the adrenaline. It buzzes. It lights the attic of your skull with a bulb that won't burn out. At 11:06 p.m., the front door whispered, soft as gossip. The recorder clicked on under the table, mechanical, patient. Feet crossed the kitchen. A cup clinked. A drawer sighed. The pillbox shuffled. Then silence, the kind of silence that has fingerprints. In the morning, I took my pulse and my courage to the ER. Shortness of breath, I told the triage nurse. Dizzy sometimes. I did not dramatize. I did not underplay. They drew blood. They asked about sleep aids. I said yes sometimes. The truth. The toxicology came back with a polite throat clearing. Sedative levels higher than consistent with reported use. You should tighten control of your medications, the PA said. And his eyes were kind. I intend to, I said. Could you print that? He looked surprised. We don't usually... I'm 72, I said. Print it. He printed, and I put the paper in my purse where it hummed like a tuning fork. Medicine speaks fluent evidence. On Tuesday, I went to the legal aid clinic at the library. The lawyer assigned me was Ms. Chang, 30-something, hair pinned like a dancer's, eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my list without interrupting, then tapped her pen softly against a legal pad. Emergency guardianship petition, she said. They'll say you're unsafe and need immediate protection. They'll frame it as love. Love, I said, and the word sat in my mouth like a foreign coin. Do not sign anything Friday, she said. If they take you to a notary, you can still refuse. If they get you to sign at home, it gets harder. Our plan is to force a hearing. You request counsel. We bring your paper. We bring your videos. We ask the court for a capacity evaluation by a neutral doctor. Not Dr. Bennett. Court, I said. I started an envelope. Good, she said, like a teacher impressed by extra credit. Start a binder. Tabs, money, medical, legal, audio, video. Timeline in front, names and roles. We will not look like the ones with a story. We will look like the ones with math. Math I can do, I said. Feelings are trickier. Feelings we'll save for closing, she said, and smiled like a blade. What about the recordings? I asked, lowering my voice. In your own home? She said. Admissible depends. But jurors, judges, they're human. Seeing is believing. We won't lead with it. We'll end with it. End with it, I repeated, like a hymn. She gave me a template for an affidavit. Write this by hand, then type it. Date each incident. Keep your adjectives to yourself. Let their words hang them. She lowered her voice. And if they try to take you somewhere Friday, text me the word blue. I'll call 911 for a welfare check. Why blue? I asked. You said you tied a blue ribbon on an envelope, she said, as if she'd been in my kitchen when I made that knot. Blue means you're still choosing. On Wednesday, I took a cab to the insurance office and paid my premium in person. We got a beneficiary change packet request from your online portal, the rep said, squinting at her screen. Want me to walk you through it? I didn't request it, I said. From what IP did the request originate? She frowned. We don't. You do, I said. Or your tech team does. She made a call. She wrote on a sticky note. She slid it to me as if we were trading contraband. Dixon and Hoyle Plumbing. I tucked the sticky into my binder behind legal. Derek smelled like bleach and stale coffee, even when he hadn't been working. He also smelled like easy solutions that felt like handcuffs. I asked for a policy printout that showed me, in black ink, Evelyn P. Hart, as owner and holder, with no executed change of beneficiary. She highlighted the word pending next to the incomplete request. Pending is a dangerous word. Pending is a slope with rain on it. Remove any online delegates, I said. Lock the account. We can add two-factor, she suggested. Add 3 if you have it, I said. Back home, I made a binder. I like order. It makes chaos behave. I labeled tabs with my best handwriting. Money, medical, legal, audio, video. I slid Lords' ATM stills and timestamps behind money, the pharmacy logs, the ER tox report behind medical, Ms. Chang's affidavit template, the fax log, the assisted living call notes behind legal, behind audio-video. I tucked a USB labeled Kitchen Evidence 1 in Evan's neat block print, and a second USB labeled Kitchen Backup. I made a third copy and walked it across to Mrs. Patel. Insurance at Dixon and Hoyle, I told her, and she raised both eyebrows until they almost met her hairline. Deadlines? She asked. Friday, 20 p.m. notary, I said. 2 weeks deposit for the suite. Wednesday premium paid. I didn't say Derek. Needs papers for Monday. Wolves hunt in packs, she said softly. 1 drives, 1 pulls, 1 waits. I'll be on my porch, I said. With a broom, she patted my hand. With a record. That night, the button cam earned its name. At 11:06 p.m., the front door opened. Derek's shoulders entered first. The rest of him followed like an apology. He had a key. He moved like a man in his own house. He did not call my name. He went to the drawer with the envelopes, rent, car, emergencies, and opened it. He handled the plastic sleeve with the deed. He flipped it, saw nothing new, and shoved it back. He opened the freezer and chuckled softly at the envelopes. He took nothing he could be charged for. He took pictures with his phone. He came close enough to the cookie jar that the camera fogged briefly with his breath. He sniffed the teacup I'd left by the sink like a dog assessing territory. Then he left, as quietly as he'd come. In the morning, I measured the cookie jar. 3.5 inches from the seam. I wrote it down. I printed a still from the video, his hand on my drawer, and slid it behind audio sauce video. I texted Ms. Chang. He used a key. Blue, she texted back, making sure. Not yet, I wrote. Friday, I made my affidavit. I dated each line. I kept my adjectives in my pocket. March 12th. Gas bill estimated. Correction issued. Overpayment not returned. Marissa stated, you forgot to pay. April 3rd. ATM withdrawals, Fund 400, while at quilting. Lords provided times. ATM still shows female with sunglasses and scarf. April 5th. Pharmacy printout shows early Zolpidem refill. Initials MH not in my hand. April 6th. Post-it appears. Friday 2 p.m. Notary. Bring ID. Handwriting mimics mine. Numeral 2 has a hat. My 2s do not. April 6th, 6:29 p.m. Video capture. Marissa pours powder into teacup, then adds teabag. Audio. Friday at 2. April 6th, 11:06 p.m. Video capture. Derek enters with key. Opens drawers or freezer. Photographs, documents. April 11th. Assisted living call. $25,000 deposit due by Friday to hold suite for 2 weeks. Fax number differs from Dr. Bennett's. Machine ID reads Greer Realty, April 7th. Insurance confirms online request for beneficiary change, originating at Dixon and Hoyle Plumbing. No change executed. Account locked with two-factor. April 8th. ER toxicology shows sedative level inconsistent with prescribed dosing. PA advises tighten control of medications. At the bottom I wrote, I affirm these statements are true to the best of my knowledge and belief. And I signed Evelyn P. Hart with the E where it belongs. You spelled truth with your pen. Mrs. Patel said when I showed her. "The court will recognize the hand." "I hope they recognize the mother," I said. On Thursday morning, Marissa arrived with sunflowers, always with the optics. "Smile," she said, snapping a photo without asking, captioning it "blessed to be her caregiver," while I was still swallowing the startle. "Caregivers don't make their patients sign quit claims," I said. "You learn big words and think you're a lawyer," she snapped. "I learned big words because I paid for your college," I said, and saw the flinch. "We're done with small words now," she pivoted to soft. "Mom, I love you." "Then love me in daylight," I said. "Love me at a table with witnesses." Her mouth pinched white. "Friday at 2, she said, and left the flowers drooping in a vase that wasn't clean. Evan came in from school, tossed his backpack, then picked it up again, and unzipped the front pocket. He pulled out a tiny thumb drive in a case shaped like a baseball. "2 copies. One here," he said, setting it on the counter, "and one in my locker under a false bottom." "You're your mother's grandson, and not at all your mother," I said, and kissed his hair. "I'm your kid," he said. "You taught me to make backups. You taught me to clean as I go. You taught me to look people in the eye when I tell the truth. You taught me how to set a camera," I said, and we smiled at each other like thieves who'd stolen back something that belonged to us. Thursday evening, I sat on the porch with Mrs. Patel and watched the maple sift the light into lace. "Friday," she said. "Friday," I said, and the word didn't scare me anymore. It sounded like a door I knew how to open. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small recorder. "Old habits," she said. "Put it in your coat pocket tomorrow. If anyone raises a hand or a voice, you'll have their tone on tape." "I have their tone in my bones," I said. "Courts like bones wrapped in tape," she replied, and we both laughed. Old women with straight spines and crooked humor. When she left, I went to Leonard's stone in the little cemetery behind St. Bridget's. The evening smelled like cut grass and rain pretending to be far away. I sat on the low wall and told him everything, as if he were polishing his glasses and would look up at me in a minute with that crooked half-smile that meant I was right and he was proud. "I'm bringing our life to court tomorrow," I said, "in a binder with tabs. If the dead can bless you," he did. "If they can't, the wind did, and the wind is older than any judge." Friday morning, I paid the electric bill at the counter, in cash, and took the receipt like a trophy. I put on the coat with the recorder in the pocket and the USB in the lining. I slid the binder into my tote, heavy as a newborn. I taped a note inside the freezer. "If I don't come back by 5, call Ms. Chang." I left the back door locked, the front door locked, the windows latched. I set the cookie jar so the hen stared directly at the chair. "You ready?" Evan asked, eyes bright and wet all at once. "I'm ready," I said, "and I am not alone." "Not alone?" he echoed, and put his hand flat over my heart, the way he used to when he was small and needed to feel a metronome. The doorbell rang at 1:37 p.m. Early. "They wanted me rushed. They wanted me off balance." Marissa's voice sang through the door. "Mom, we're here a little early. Traffic later will be a nightmare." I glanced at the clock, at the apple magnet, at the blue ribbon peeking from the drawer like a flag. I thought of the teacup, the powder, the scarf at the ATM, the fax machine that thought it was a real doctor, the assisted living lady chirping like a bird with a mortgage, the IP address that didn't know I could still learn new words. I thought of Leonard, of Lourdes, of Sharon with the fluttering voice, and the clerk with nails like knives, of Ms. Chang with her pen like a sword, of Mrs. Patel with her steady stenographer's hands, of Evan with his cameras and his courage. I thought of Friday, Friday, Friday. "Coming," I called, and reached for the binder. They arrived early to unnerve me. Marissa with her sunglasses, even though the hallway was dim. Derek with a smile that looked stapled on. "Ready, Mom," she sang. "We'll be in and out. 2 o'clock sharp." "In and out of what?" I asked, my hand already on my tote. "My life, my house, my name." "Don't start," Derek muttered. "Let's move. Traffic." I didn't step aside. "We're not going to the notary." "What?" Marissa blinked like a doll whose eyes stick. "Then where?" "To court," I said, and the word rang through my little hallway like a bell at a school where no one is ready. "You wanted guardianship. Let's have daylight." Her face did something I had never seen it do. Not fury, not fear. "Calculation skipping a gear." "Mom, don't be dramatic." "I called a lawyer," I said. "Miss Chang, she's meeting us. If you want signatures, you can ask a judge to watch my hand." Derek laughed, short and mean. "That's cute. Let's go." He reached for my elbow. "Touch me and I'll shout," I said, not loud, not quiet. "And the neighbors will hear words I won't be able to take back later." He let go. Marissa tried soft again. "We're trying to protect you." "Then protect me where the record button is red," I said, and brushed past them, locking the door with my key, and slipping that key into the small inside pocket Mrs. Patel had sewn for me the night before. "Bring nothing that isn't honest. You're gonna hate the fluorescent lights." The county courthouse has a smell. Paper, old wood, a mop that's forgotten what clean is. We climb the stairs, me steady, them tight. At the landing, Miss Chang appeared with her pen and her warrior bun, eyes like the part of a river that goes deep and quiet before the waterfall. "Mrs. Hart," she said, taking my elbow only to steer me toward a bench. "You look ready." "I am," I said. "They're early. Wolves are always early." Miss Chang looked over their shoulders and smiled without showing teeth. "Ms. Hart's family? I'm counsel. The petition for emergency guardianship." "You filed?" For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then Marissa's voice brightened, like someone had turned on a stage light. "Yes, I filed. My mother is confused and unsafe. We're doing this for her own good." "Then you'll be thrilled we're here," Miss Chang said mildly. "Clark's window is this way." We followed. Paperwork fluttered. Names were stamped. A bailiff with a coffee stain on his tie told us to wait. I could hear my own pulse. It sounded like marching boots. "Mom, you could have done this quietly," Marissa hissed. "You always make a spectacle." "Spectacles help me see," I said, "and they help the court see me." Derek leaned in, breath sour with nerves. "You won't like what happens when judges get involved. They'll put you someplace cheap." I looked him in the eye the way I look at a child who doesn't realize he's bitten the teacher. "Thank you for your candor, Derek." He flinched. The clerk called our names. We were ushered into a courtroom smaller than it feels on television. Pews like church, but no hymns. Judge Avery, 60-ish with a face that forgot how to smile a decade ago, sat behind the bench as if it had grown around him. "Emergency guardianship petition," he said, scanning a thin file. "Petitioner, state your case." Marissa stood. Perfect posture, voice honey-sweet. "Your Honor, my mother is 72, increasingly confused, easily manipulated. She's unsafe in her home. We're requesting temporary guardianship to manage her medical decisions and property. We have a notary appointment to make it easier, but she's resisting. We love her," Derek added, trying on sincerity like a jacket that didn't fit. "We're just trying to keep her from hurting herself." The judge looked at me. "Ms. Hart?" I stood. My legs felt like forgiving. "Your Honor, I brought a binder." "May I approach?" Ms. Chang touched my wrist, a signal, and we walked together to the table. I set the binder down. Its weight felt like my name. "We'll proceed in order," Ms. Chang said. "We intend to show that the petition misrepresents Ms. Hart's capacity, that there has been financial exploitation, medication tampering, and an attempt to force the transfer of property without informed consent." The judge raised an eyebrow. "You have evidence?" "We do," she said. And we will begin with the simplest. Words, she nodded to me. I pressed play on the little recorder Mrs. Patel had given me. My kitchen in miniature filled the courtroom. My daughter's voice, unmistakable, intimate, vicious. The best gift would be if you just died. Gasps ripple. They always do. They are as old as theater. The judge held up a hand. The room subsided like a scolded child. Context, he asked. The context is Friday at 2:00 p.m. Ms. Chang replied. We will get there. For now, petitioners allege care. The record reflects coercion. Marissa's face went slate. I never said. You did, I said. You were on speaker. I was tying a blue ribbon to an envelope to add you back to my will. The judge looked at me for a long breath. Continue, counsel. Tab 1. Money, Ms. Chang said, flipping. Bank teller affidavit. 3 ATM withdrawals. One $400 total, while Ms. Hart was at a quilting circle. ATM stills show a woman in sunglasses and a scarf belonging to Ms. Hart. Pin known. Ms. Hart does not use ATMs. She slid the still across to the judge. A bailiff carried it. The judge studied it, then glanced over his glasses. Ms. Hart, is this your daughter? I didn't have to answer. The scarf was mine. The sunglasses were hers. Miss Chang answered softly. The teller, Lords, 14-year employee, will testify. We weren't stealing, Derek blurted. We were paying a plumber. With cash you didn't tell me about, I said. From a machine I don't use. The judge made a note. Tab 2. Medical. Ms. Chang continued. Pharmacy logs. Zolpidem refilled 12 days early. Diphenhydramine purchased repeatedly. Inconsistent with Ms. Hart's usual pattern. Pickup initials MH on several entries. Ms. Hart's signature on file does not match. We also submit an ER toxicology report from April 8th, showing sedative levels inconsistent with her prescribed use. She laid the papers like cards in a trick no one enjoys watching. The judge's eyes narrowed. Curiosity, not contempt. Who is MH? He asked. Marissa lifted her chin. Me, I'm her caregiver. She forgets. I pick up to help. Who authorized you? Ms. Chang asked. Marissa blinked once, slowly. She did. She forgets. Tab 3. Legal doctor, Ms. Chang said, turning. A cognitive assessment was faxed from Dr. Bennett's office to Bright Willow Assisted Living. Ms. Hart did not take that assessment. The fax machine ID reads Greer Realty, not Dr. Bennett's number. The receptionist will testify the clerk altered the header and sent at Marissa's request. The judge's pen paused mid-note. Why would a realty office be involved? Tab 3A, Ms. Chang said, serene, sliding a printed text thread face up. A realtor cousin offered a $10,000 incentive if the house listed by Monday. We also have a PI report documenting gambling debts and a payday loan due in 11 days for Mr. Derek. Motive. Your Honor, Derek's face mottled. That's illegal snooping like that. Owing money isn't, Ms. Chang said. Drugging your mother-in-law might be. A murmur rippled. The judge lifted his palm and sliced the noise in half. Tab 4? Audio-video, Ms. Chang said, and the words felt larger than the room. She turned the small courtroom monitor toward the bench. Your Honor, in Ms. Hart's kitchen. Her home. Legal standard satisfied. We have one button camera disguised in a cookie jar, and one overhead backup. First, April 6th, 6:29 p.m. The screen showed my humble stage. The kettle, the hen, the chair. Marissa's hand entered frame, graceful as a dancer's, and tipped a sachet of powder into my cup, then dropped the tea bag in after, like a secret being baptized. Her voice off camera was conversational, domestic. Friday at 2. You could feel the room tilt. Pause, the judge said, and Ms. Chang obliged. He leaned forward, elbows on the bench. Counsel, is the timestamp authenticated? By the metadata, Ms. Chang said. Unedited, chain of custody preserved. 5 copies. One with neighbor Mrs. Patel, retired court stenographer. One lodged with counsel. One in a locked freezer at Ms. Hart's. One with Ms. Hart's grandson's school locker. One to be filed under seal if the court wishes. Why the freezer? The judge asked before he could stop himself. Because paper has a memory, I said, and he almost smiled. Proceed, he said. Second clip. April 6th, 11:06 p.m., Ms. Chang said. Derek entered the frame like a man who had mistaken himself for a homeowner. Key, familiarity, a drawer opening, my deed handled, my envelopes lifted, my freezer peered into, not stealing but surveying, the way a wolf learns fencing. The judge watched without blinking. When the clip ended, he sat back and breathed out. Breaths are statements, too. Counsel for petitioners, he said at last, mild as rain. Do you wish to respond? Marissa tried buoyancy. This is all taken out of context, she said. My mother's been confused. She's been delirious. She called 911 for no reason. He called, I said, and placed Evan's small, neat notebook on the table like a declaration of independence. My boy sat in the back row, hands together, knuckles white. Ms. Hart, the judge said, let your counsel... Forgive me, I said. I've been quiet for a decade too long. Ms. Chang lifted a hand. Permission granted. Your Honor, we can call Lords from the bank, Sharon from Dr. Bennett's, and Mrs. Patel for handwriting and process testimony. But we don't need a parade. The petition relied on fear rather than fact. Ms. Hart is capable. Her deficits are limited to the patience she's squandered on people who mistake entitlement for affection. The judge tapped his pen. Ms. Hart, answer me this. Do you understand your current medications? Your financial obligations? The nature of any documents you might sign? Yes, I said. Amlodipine in the morning. Calcium with breakfast. Tylenol if the knee screams. Property tax $3,400 due in June. Insurance premium paid Wednesday. Credit card for groceries. No ATM card, so if money leaves a wall, it's because someone pushed it. POA means giving someone the keys to your life. Quitclaim means putting your name in the trash. A small smile touched the judge's mouth, then left. And if this court were to deny guardianship? I will change my locks, I said. I will restrict access to my medications. I will file police reports where they belong. I will host a safety circle on my porch and teach women like me where to hide a camera and how to keep their names in their own hands. A quiet fell that didn't feel empty. It felt purposeful, like a teacher waiting for a class to catch up to the lesson. Marissa's voice broke the hush, shrill. She's manipulating... Stop talking! Derek hissed at her, then forgot where he was and slammed his palm on the table. You said she'd be out by Friday. The courtroom stiffened as one organism. Ms. Chang didn't look at him. She looked at the judge. Your Honor, that is admission. If the audio and video felt ambiguous, the petulance isn't. Mr. Derek, the judge said, tone changing temperature. Approach. Derek swaggered. It's a habit men think reads as confidence. The judge leaned across his bench. If I hear from counsel or the district attorney that you have set foot in Ms. Hart's home again, without her express written permission, you will spend a weekend in my jail, and you will become intimately acquainted with a mop bucket. Do you understand me? Yes, Your Honor, he muttered. Louder. The judge said. Yes, Your Honor. Sit down, the judge said, turning back to Ms. Chang. Any final submission? Just this, Ms. Chang said, voice steady. We are not here to crucify children for being imperfect caregivers. We are here because someone weaponized the words. It's for your own good. The remedy for that is not a private notary. The remedy is sunlight. The judge nodded once. He looked at me, not over me. Ms. Hart, do you feel safe going home? Yes, I said. Now that I'm not expected to die as a birthday gift. A brittle laugh cracked the gallery. A gavel tap hammered it shut. Judge Avery shuffled the petition as if it were a deck of cards he was done playing. Petition for emergency guardianship is denied. The court finds no credible evidence that Ms. Hart lacks capacity to manage her affairs. Further, the court orders a temporary protective order against Derek and Marissa. No contact without Ms. Hart's consent. No entry into her home. No handling of her medications or finances. Keys are to be surrendered to the bailiff today. The court refers suspected financial exploitation and possible poisoning to the district attorney for investigation. Dr. Bennett's office will cooperate. A subpoena will issue for the clerk. Bright Willow Assisted Living is admonished to confirm consent scrupulously in future. He paused, then added, voice softer and somehow heavier. And Ms. Hart, if anyone tells you again that the best gift you can give is your disappearance, you tell them this court prefers its birthday cakes with candles, not settlements. I felt the laugh rise and I swallowed it. I felt the sob rise and I swallowed that too. What I let out was breath. A clean, long breath I didn't owe anyone an apology for. Keys, the bailiff said, walking to Derek and holding out his palm. Derek fished in his pocket like a magician about to fail a trick. He dropped 2 keys into the bailiff's hand with a clink that sounded like a bell learning manners. Marissa reached in her purse and produced a 3rd, small, new, guilty. All of them, the bailiff said. I turned to Evan. He stood suddenly taller than the bench's back, eyes shining. Nana, he whispered. Tell the truth, I told him. He walked to the front, clumsy with courage, and spoke into a microphone too low for his height. I'm 15. I set the cameras. I asked Nana to. I thought maybe I was overreacting. I wanted to be wrong. I really wanted to be wrong. He swallowed. I'm glad I wasn't. The judge nodded at him, one human to another. Good afternoon, Mr. Evan. Don't set cameras in school bathrooms. A ripple of relieved laughter. This one the judge allowed. Ms. Chang squeezed my hand under the table. You did it, she murmured. We did it, I said. Me and my porch, and my maple and a hen with a secret. And a stenographer, came Mrs. Patel's whisper from the back row. I didn't turn, but I felt her grin. Court adjourned, the judge said, and the gavel found wood with a sound that made my bones believe in order again. In the corridor, the fluorescent lights showed everything you try to hide. Bad concealer, fear, the way guilt sits in the hollows under your eyes like coins for a river crossing. Marissa reached for me. Reflex or habit, I couldn't tell. Don't, I said, not unkind. Sit with what you built. You ruined us, she hissed, tears finally coming when the performance had the smallest audience. I saved me, I said. There was room for you in that sentence. You chose not to come. I was trying to help, she said, but it sounded like reciting at gunpoint. Love that needs a notary is not love, I said. Love that needs sedatives is not love. Derek stepped in, then stepped back, because Ms. Chang materialized at my side like patience with teeth. The protective order is live, she said. Your next words should be to your lawyer, they went. Wolves hate paperwork they can't eat. Home, Evan said, and the strength in his voice, the casual ownership of that word, made me dizzy with gratitude. Home, home, I said. On the steps outside, a woman I knew from St. Bridget's hurried up, cheeks pink, breathless. Mrs. Hart, I'm so... We're fine, I said, and meant the shape of the word, if not yet the comfort. I didn't realize... No one does, I said gently. That's why doors have peepholes. She nodded as if I'd given her a recipe. Back in my kitchen, the stage, the witness, the friend, I set my tote on the table and took off my coat. The hen looked less anxious. The kettle hummed like a cat. The apple magnet held fast. I put the binder down and laid my palm on it, the way women have laid palms on the backs of sleeping children. Swear and blessing both. Tea? Evan asked, grinning. "Lemonade," I said, and we both laughed, clean and helpless. The phone rang. Unknown caller. I let it chirp until the machine took it. A woman's voice, tight with a rehearsed apology. "Mrs. Hart, this is Bright Willow. We received notice from the court. We'll be canceling your deposit request and closing the file. We hope—" I pressed delete. A text from Ms. Chang. "DA accepted referral. Expect a call. Sleep. You're safe tonight." Another text from Lords. "I'm proud of you." My mom cried when I told her. And from Sharon at Dr. Bennett's. Halting and brave. "I'm sorry. The clock is suspended." I gave a statement. I stood in the middle of my kitchen and let those 3 unlikely threads tie a knot I could trust. The doorbell rang. Not a wolf. A friend. Mrs. Patel holding a pie like an oath. I recorded everything, just in case the court forgot how to listen. She announced. Did it? Not today. We ate pie at the table where my daughter had sprinkled powder, and it tasted like something that had decided to be sweet, despite every failure of weather. When the slices were done and the plate stacked and the boy fed and the hen slightly cockeyed, I like it that way. It looks like she's in on the joke. I took the blue ribbon from the drawer and smoothed it with my hand. "What now?" Evan asked, leaning back in his chair. Young for the first time all week. "Now," I said, "we go for a walk to see Leonard. We tell him that the court believes women with binders. Then we come home and change the locks. And after that, I said, we sleep in a house where the only thing in the tea is tea." He laughed. Mrs. Patel laughed. The kettle sighed. Outside, the maple let go of a few leaves, even though it wasn't time. Sometimes a tree needs to drop what's been clinging too long. Night came slow and kind. I stood at the sink, looking at my reflection in the dark window. The tremble still there. The steel, louder now. I thought of the judge's face when he said denied. Of Derek's palm slapping wood. Of Marissa's powder falling like snow over a cup I didn't drink. I thought of my own voice, unshaking, saying court into my hallway like a spell. "Old doesn't mean blind," I told the glass. "Old means I've seen this trick before." And in the quiet after, with the kettle breathing, with Evan's footsteps going light toward bed, with Mrs. Patel humming a song from whatever continent courage comes from, I let myself say it out loud, the line I had swallowed in the courtroom, because there hadn't been space for a grandmother's prayer. I am not worthless. I am not invisible. I am not done. We changed the locks before sunset. The locksmith was a young man with tattooed forearms and a patience I wanted to fold into a napkin and keep. "Deadbolt here. Reinforced strike plate there," he said, making the door speak a new language. When the last screw bit wood, he handed me 2 keys. Heavy, honest, nothing like the kind Derek dropped into the bailiff's hand. I turned one in the lock and felt it catch. It felt like my name catching. "Try it again?" Evan said, grinning. "All boy again. And also not a boy at all." "Again," I said, and turned it. Click. Safety can be measured in clicks. We called the bank. Lords put a fraud alert on my accounts, cancelled the debit card I had never used, and set up a passphrase that only old friends and kitchen tables would recognize. "Say the thing you always tell me when I try to give you a fee rebate," she teased. "Paper has a memory," I said, and she laughed. "We called the pharmacy. No third-party pickups." The tech read back. "No changes without Evelyn in person. And no initials that look like me but aren't," I added. "We'll flag your profile," he said. "I'm sorry." We called the insurance company. "2-factor activated," the rep confirmed. "Pending change request closed. We've opened an investigation into the IP that requested it." "Tell Dixon and Hoyle I hope their pipes burst," I said, and the rep coughed to hide a laugh. The district attorney's office called the next morning. "We've opened a case," the investigator said, voice practical as a stapler. Charges under review. Theft by unlawful taking, identity theft, forgery, reckless endangerment, administering a noxious substance. We'll need your binder. You'll have it, I said. It has tabs. He cleared his throat. I like tabs. Me too, I said, and hung up feeling seen in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with evidence. Dr. Bennett called to apologize without quite saying the word. The clerk is no longer with us, he said, discovering the passive voice like a crutch. We'll cooperate fully. Do better, I said. When someone says they're my daughter, ask me if I own the mouth that's answering. Yes, Mrs. Hart, he said softly. Bright Willow Assisted Living sent a letter that sounded like a press release trying to be a casserole. We're reviewing our intake. Procedures. We regret any distress. Your non-deposit is refunded. I pinned it to the corkboard with the same push pin that holds the recipe for lemon bars and a picture of Evan at 8 with jam on his cheek. I like my warnings where I can see them. I like my joys beside them. Marissa and Derek did not come by, could not come by. The protective order was not a metaphor. Their lawyers called Ms. Chang and said words like misunderstanding and family matter. And Ms. Chang said words like discovery and recordings and charge. Enhancement. Silence followed. The kind with ankle monitors in it. Do you want to press charges? The victim advocate asked me on the phone. A woman my age by the warmth of her voice. Sometimes people decline. They pressed first, I said. I'm just not stepping back. She exhaled. I'll be with you in court if you need me. I like a woman who knows her way around a pew, I said. At St. Bridget's, there were casseroles, of course. There are always casseroles when a woman doesn't die. People are relieved by something they can salt and stir. We didn't know, Mrs. Green said, crying into a dish towel. No one does, I told her gently. We'll teach them. So we taught. On Wednesdays at 10 a.m., the porch became a classroom. Wednesday porch school. We set out folding chairs, a pot of coffee, a plate of lemon cookies, and a stack of spiral notebooks. Mrs. Patel brought a bell the size of a plum and rang it when the chit-chat drowned the lesson. Write words, not feelings, I began channeling her. Times, dates, exact quotes. Write the twos you make so you'll know an imposter's hat when you see it. What's a hat? A woman asked. I drew a 2 with a jaunty little cap on the flip pad, and the porch laughed like it hadn't in years. We covered binders and tabs. We covered pharmacy printouts and fax headers and how to ask a bank teller to turn the screen without making her feel like a criminal. We practiced saying no with an inside voice that sounded like the outside voice of a woman who has survived winters. We learned the sentence, I'll sign that in front of a judge. We hosted a free notary day at the library with Ms. Chang supervising like a hawk in pearls. We made a photocopy station for IDs so women could keep their faces when someone asked for their names. We made handouts for grandkids with instructions on button cams, USB backups, and legal versus illegal. We talked about assisted living, and when it is love, and when it is a business model that drinks from the well of fear. What about forgiveness? Someone asked once, voice small. Forgiveness is a blanket you knit for yourself, I said. It keeps you warm. It doesn't make a thief a guest again. In Willow Ridge, news travels the way dandelions do, and so does truth once you get it into the wind. The realtor cousin lost her license for a year and learned what it feels like to sit on the wrong side of a desk. Sharon at Dr. Bennett's cried when she saw me and handed me a Tupperware of chicken salad she said was from a place of contrition. Bright Willow sent brochures for their caregiver ethics seminar as if I might hang them on the fridge for decoration. I put them under a table leg that wobbled. Let them be useful. Evan's room became a boys' room again, and also a small newsroom. He printed the DA's case updates and tacked them on a corkboard with the seriousness of a lighthouse keeping schedules for fog. He made me a checklist app on his phone. Insurance paid, pills sorted, doors locked, and taught me to touch the green check and watch it turn blue. Blue for the ribbon, he said, and I felt the old shock of that day like a wave that still breaks softer now. "Do you miss her?" he asked one night. The kind of question boys say for the dark. "Yes," I said. "I miss the daughter I thought I had. I don't miss the woman who wanted my disappearance wrapped up and topped with a bow. Do you hate her?" "No," I said honestly. "Hate is heavy. I carry the house." "That's enough. What about me?" he asked very quietly. We had been living the answer, but a boy deserves to hear it out loud. Ms. Chang helped file the kinship caregiver papers, and the family court judge who loves good binders signed them with a nod that felt like a hand on a small back, steadying. "You," I said, tilting his chin. "You are my joy. You are the reason the kettle screams." And I answer, "You are the reason the porch has chairs." He smiled, and then he slept like boys sleep, when they know where the doors are and who has the keys. I cleaned drawers. I rearranged the potholders. I put the deed back in its plastic sleeve, then into a fireproof box the locksmith threw in, for a lady with a better binder than my accountant. I set the cookie jar slightly cockeyed on purpose. It looks like she's in on the joke. I put the blue ribbon in a slim white box the jeweler gave me when I had him fix the clasp on my locket. Some days I wear the ribbon under my sweater like an oath. Some days I tie it around the lemon bars when we take them to church. We went to see Leonard. The cemetery in June is honest. No drama, just grass doing what it does. I told him about Judge Avery and the DA and Ms. Chang's pen and Mrs. Patel's pie and Evan's hands learning the old work of carrying and the new work of clicking save. "They didn't get Friday," I said, setting the ribbon on the stone. "They didn't get Wednesday either. The premium is paid." "He'd be proud," Mrs. Patel said, not because she knew, but because some things are easy to know. "I'm proud," Evan said. "Something boys don't say unless it's true, and they're ready to be men." We sat on the porch that evening and counted fireflies. 1 for luck, 2 for money, 3 for truth. We got to 3 and kept going. 4 for dignity, 5 for peace, 6 for the quiet between 2 heartbeats, when a judge says denied, and the room remembers how to breathe. The maple made lace of the late sun. The kettle sighed. Somewhere in town, a door closed that had been open too long. The trial will come, or it won't. Plea deals are the way rivers meet the sea, quietly, inevitably, wearing a path no one sees until it's made. Consequences are not mine to quarterback. What is mine is boundaries. No contact means no contact. Holidays will be different. Holidays have always been different after a death. We will make new ones. Evan can teach me games where the controller vibrates like a small, startled animal. I can teach him to mend a tear so small, it feels like magic when you can't find it anymore. "Do you forgive her?" Mrs. Patel asked me once. Not for gossip, but for theology. "I forgive enough to sleep," I said. "I don't forgive enough to unlock the back door." Sometimes I wake in the blue hour and I think I hear footsteps in the kitchen. I lie very still and let my body tell me whether it's a noise or a memory. It's usually the house settling. Old bones do that. I go downstairs anyway. I check the cookie jar, the chair angle, the apple magnets hold. I pour a glass of water, not tea. I say out loud, in case the dark needs the reminder. I am not worthless. I am not invisible. I am not done. The dark, like the judge, nods. The dark leaves me to my kitchen, and then morning comes like it always used to, without permission and right on time. 5:30 a.m. The porch swing yawns. The maple practices being a net for birds. The paper hits the step with a soft thok, and I stand barefoot on the wood. Leonard sanded, and I breathe air that doesn't smell like fear. I think about my mother, who could make a dress out of a tablecloth and an afternoon. I think about the women on my porch, learning to write the shape of their twos. I think about the judge's joke about cakes and candles. I think about fires that warm and fires that warn. Old doesn't mean blind. I tell the morning. Old means I've learned how to see. Evan stumbles out, hair lit with sunshine, yawning into his fist. Coffee, he asks, hopeful. Lemonade, I say, and we both laugh, because some jokes you keep. Some you pass down, some you stitch into the border of a life and let them hold when the middle threatens to break. The hen watches. The binder waits. The blue ribbon is back in its box, ready for the next thing I choose, not the next thing chosen for me. And in Willow Ridge, on Maple Street, in a small yellow kitchen that has seen powder and pie and paper with long memories, a grandmother sits at her table and teaches herself, again, always, how to live. If my story reached you, if a line, a click, a blue ribbon sounded like your own, then hear this. True family is not defined by blood, but by love and respect. Old age is not weakness. It is practiced courage. Write your dates. Guard your name. Choose your Friday. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place when help wore a smile and carried a pen? Have you faced guardianship scares, forged papers? It's for your own good. Whispered like a lullaby. What saved you? What did you learn? If this helped, tap like, so it finds someone's kitchen before the kettle screams. Subscribe if you want more hard-won wisdom from a porch where women trade recipes for safety and binders for dignity. Share this with a daughter, a grandson, a neighbor, and remember, you are not worthless, you are not invisible, and you are not done.